Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Franchise Dissection, the show where we examine your favorite horror franchise one entry at a time, asking if it is essential to the franchise as a whole. I am your host, Alan, and I'm joined by my good friend, Corbin.
What's going on, guys? That's it.
Oh, that's it? That's all you got? Okay, all right, that works. All right, so today we're going to be discussing Friday the 13th, the final chapter. But it's not the final chapter because there's 8 more movies. Whatever. We'll talk about it. You know, of course, the show goes live on our YouTube channel every other Friday. Please do like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you think. If you want to talk to us more, come hang out in our Discord server. It's a grand old time. You can shoot us some questions if you have any questions related to these episodes that we're going to cover. For Franchise Dissection, shoot us a question. Let us know. We'd be happy to talk about it. All right, Corbin. Let's get into this body, shall we?
Of course.
All right, Corbin, let's talk about these characters. I had a hard time in some ways because some of the acting is so believably bad. Effectively, that is Jimbo and Ted. Yeah. Everything about their interactions are so teenager cringy that they're honestly believable. In a weird way for me.
Sure.
What did you think of them?
Hold on. Let me consult my computer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You're right.
that whole like little intro sequence with them, it just works so well. Yeah. Just like, you're a dead fuck. It's just like, it's so good. But then you get like, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think that it ends up feeling worse, actually, because, Jim and Ted in the beginning are so good together, and both of their characters kind of go so off the rails as the movie progresses, and they end up losing some of that believability that, that they're setting up right at the beginning.
Yeah, they do a lot to set, and I really don't know if it's probably not intentional. I think it's a combination of just, like, the kind of standard writing you get, and for some reason these two dudes just like leaned into it just enough that it worked, and then it just kind of breaks down as the movie itself breaks down in a way as you get later throughout it. But then like you get this mix where you get Trish, who's just awful,
flat,
like the entire time.
I feel like I never really knew Trish. And I think that's my issue with her. She ends up being the final girl. And it's like, she was, because she was literally just the last girl alive. The only other option would be then Tommy. But we never really get to know her as anything more than Tommy's sister.
Yeah. She just exists, and she just exists to kind of further developments. And that's all she does. There's just nothing...
And even then, though, like, barely, because most of her story is completely separated from the main storyline. I mean, the movie's 90 minutes, and probably 55 of those minutes or so, Trish and Tommy and Rob are doing their own thing, completely separated from all of the college kids that are doing their own thing. And it feels like this odd, like, almost like there's 2 movies at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Rob, because they do this work to make me give a shit about Rob, and I just don't at all.
His sister was killed by Jason Voorhees.
Oh my! I mean, how many people is this? How many sisters has Jason killed of brothers out there? A lot. I really don't like when the movie kind of assumes that you should know this character. They kind of did that in, what was that, 2? There was 3, where she's like, I have this bad experience. Or no, it wasn't 2. Do you know what I'm talking about?
That was that was in 3, but that was just
okay.
They just added that that wasn't a new sequence.
Okay, well, just
or that was a new sequence. It was yeah.
They just do all this work to make you care about characters that usually don't pan out very well. I don't know. It just doesn't work.
I think my issue with Rob is that the movie tries to position him as having this like years-long vendetta against Jason almost. Like he's really trying to get Jason, and when you put the timeline together, it's only been a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And it's like he has, I understand wanting to go after Jason, right? But it almost feels like his character is overdeveloped.
Yeah. There's so much effort put into him, but then it just feels paper thin again.
Yeah. And also he doesn't do anything as well.
No. He just gets
dies.
annihilated by Jason. I'm so glad you wrote down his line too. Because
it's one of the most iconic deaths in all of Friday the 13th. Oh my god, he's killing me. He's killing me.
It's just it's that's never not funny. Just outright. It's hilarious. The first time I watched this movie, cackling. Second time I watched this movie, still cackling. It's so hilarious. Just he's killing me. He's killing he's killing you. He's Jason. Of course it's so good. The standout part here with our gore discussion has got to be that Tom's back. Tom's here. He shows up, and it's apparent with the very first kill of the movie that, okay, we're back to the level of gore in terms of just raw goriness that I'm wanting. I know you've got a kind of slight disagreement with me here right off the bat, so let's just get into that.
Yeah. So, of course, I'm happy that Tom Savini came back for 4, right? I mean, why wouldn't that be?
Yeah.
But I think that the gore was actually pretty good in the second and third movie, and that this movie feels really, really overly edited. And I'm not sure if that was something that was done by the MPAA or if that was a creative decision made by the director or the team there. But even though the gore is so much better at times, not always, we just don't get to see a lot of it. You see it for like half a second and then it's gone. And I think that that's really disappointing to me, because if you're going to bring somebody back like Tom Savini, if you're going to have a really, really great effects artist, you want to see those effects. And I think that there's just too many gags that you barely see. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. I think for me, it still works even though it is kind of quick, because what you do see is often pretty intense, all things considered. I mean, like I said, the first kill, Jason has like a leg saw and he just cuts the dude's throat halfway through and almost like twists his head off. Like it's incredibly violent, and like you kind of know that mortician doctor guy is gonna get got, because he's an ass the whole time from the moment you meet him. And to see him get got, we've talked about it a little bit previously, is this is we feel better. We're okay with him getting got. It's a good experience. But that kind of sets the tone, I think, at a pretty high level for what to expect in terms of gore. Do you think it lives up to that?
Level. No, I don't.
Yep.
I think that first kill, you do see a lot of it, right? You get to see like one sawing motion from Jason, and the rest happens from behind, but you see enough to know what's happening, and then you see the motion of him ripping the head off, basically. Like, you see about as much as what's implied, and you see more than enough to fill in the blanks for yourself. And I don't think that is something that we get with the rest of the kills. I mean, are there standout kills? For sure. I forget the guy's name, but the guy that gets killed in the shower, his whole head is like
crushed
squished against the wall.
Yeah.
Amazing, right?
Yes.
But, for every kill that that is like that, you have a kill like, I'll even say Ted, right? And I like Ted's kill a lot, but you don't see anything, right? It's all kind of, he gets stabbed from behind the screen and there's a lot of blood, but you're missing the effect. And you can have, I think, 1 or 2 kills like that in a movie like this. There's 13 kills in this movie, so it's fine if not every single one is visceral. But I think you need to have enough visceral ones to make it worth it. And I don't know that there is.
Yeah, I mean, it's really the first and the last are the big visceral ones.
Yeah.
The in-betweens aren't as good, but it's still, like, I still just, the effects, I think, still worked for me quite well. We mentioned the kid getting his head crushed. That was great. I also, it's not particularly gory, but when Jason just throws a girl off of a 2-story building onto a car,
oh yeah,
it oddly works for me.
Definitely.
It's not gory, but it's so Jason, you know?
And I think but it becomes Jason, right? Like that's your mental image of Jason as someone who has that sort of unlimited strength to just throw someone out of a window. And we get that image because of scenes like that, right? And I love that kill. It's not gory, but it's just as brutal as it needs to be, you know?
Exactly. It fits in a movie where the gore is lighter than I think it could be.
Yeah.
That still works, even if this movie was even more gory than it already is. That scene still would work and still be a very good kill regardless. Which I think it's a sign of a solidly designed, kill for our killer here. I don't know why the axe through the door works for me, but it really does.
Oh, I loved the axe through the door. Simple kill, right? An axe into somebody's chest. Simple, traditional, classic. But something about the mental image of Jason throwing an axe through a door strong enough to go through the door and then still embed it in somebody is just perfect. It's just a great thought.
You gotta wonder, what's his technique? Is he one hand toss? Is he double fist overhand throwing it through? I mean, there's some technique there that we don't get to see the technique, but you got to assume there's some power in those shoulders, man.
We're gonna get to that actually. You'll see that in 4 months when we cover the very last entry in this series, Friday the 13th, 2009. There are some axe kills in that movie, and you see all the technique.
I remember there was one axe kill that I remember from that movie. That is one of my favorite kills in all of horror, period. So good. We'll get to that. We'll see you guys in a couple months on that.
Absolutely.
We did kind of briefly mention it. The Jason head sliding on the machete. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's some high quality gore work and effect work, and just it's probably it's so far the best way that they've put Jason down in any of the movies.
I definitely think that, considering this is the third movie in a row that kind of pretends like it could be the last movie, they really killed Jason in this one. I think they really wanted to make sure that after this movie, Jason was in the ground. And I do kind of like that 2 of the best effects shots are at the very end against Jason. It's kind of a fun twist on it, right? He catches the machete in his hand and it cuts all the way through his palm.
So good.
Awesome. And then, of course, when he slides down the machete. These are iconic scenes, and I think it's interesting at times that the goriest bits of this movie are not from Jason, but against Jason. All right, so as always, we got to talk about the climax, right?
100%.
Before we get into it, I want to talk a little bit about Jason. Now, this one is interesting to me because Jason is kind of barely in this movie. He's in the climax a whole lot. You see Jason doing Jason-y things a lot in that last 20 minutes or so. Mm-hmm. But for the other hour, Jason is gallivanting around, killing people, but you're only seeing, his knees down or just his hands again. After seeing him so clearly for 2 other movies, how did you feel about that?
It, to me, just felt more like they were trying to do more of an homage to our first kind of Jason, where you really don't see any, you technically don't see any Jason in the first one at all, but, it's really more, you just don't get to see the full killer side of things as much. But I don't think it necessarily was something I picked up on as much. Because once you do, like you said, once the final, 20 minutes or so starts rolling, it's just Jason's front and center the rest of the time, just doing all sorts of cool stuff. Mm-hmm. walking through a fucking door. It was awesome.
Yeah.
But I mean, once he really starts going in the climax, I mean, it's just cool moment after cool moment after cool moment.
Oh, absolutely. He's killing people left and right. You know, I mean, it's dense with violence, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this one kind of has the first really good Jason goes on a rampage kind of feel, because he's in, so far as like the movie timeline is going, he's killing a lot of people in a very short amount of real time. And I really like that angle compared to the other movies where he's kind of stalking people over the course of a little bit. And this one puts him more into that force of nature vibe that I think the future movies just go for with Jason.
Yeah.
And I think some of that is that, you know, this is the first one where he's definitively not human. I mean, he's already died once and then risen from the dead inexplicably. So now he can just be anything. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, it even proves that with the amount of damage he takes in this movie alone. Before, we'll get to that here in a little bit. We got a few more things to cover in the climax. The Rob throw. I mean, it's so good.
I think my favorite part about him throwing Rob through the window is that it breaks the whole wall down.
Exactly. It wasn't just that the window succumbed to the might of Jason's throw. The entire wall was like, I can't handle this, man. Yeah. This man just came through my entire side at a speed with which I am not rated. The human resistance of walls is not properly tempered for Jason. It's just not. He just absolutely tosses him through. It works so well. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of windows. What is it? Four window shots?
There are
with the dog?
4 scenes of where somebody is either jumping through or being thrown out of a window. And why? Why so many times? 3 people and 1 dog. All in the same movie. 4 windows for 4 movies.
Oh, okay. I see what you did there. We haven't talked about Trish in a little bit. We kind of have to, because she's the final girl.
Kind of have to.
And, so she's a weird one for me. Mm-hmm. I think that the damage she does to Jason is undeniable. She probably does the most physical damage, except maybe Jenny in part 2. But even then, I mean, she really puts the move on Jason here. I mean, the good hand cut, she slices his hands in general. Mm-hmm. I mean, she really, the TV smash, I mean, she puts a pretty solid amount of hurt on him. But I don't know, her character just didn't. Her character, I don't think, lived up to the damage she did. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? You know?
Yeah. It almost feels like they split anything that would make the final girl interesting into both Trish and Tommy, and even a little bit the mom, whose name I don't even remember. Yeah, and so you had this family that was sort of like representing the final girl, and none of them on their own were really that interesting. And you know, if you had instead of this family living on Camp Crystal Lake for who knows how long, to way too long, to thinking about it.
Yeah. To have not had a Jason encounter before this one.
Yeah. Or that just like lived across the lake when all those other people were getting killed and we're just like, I'll just still live here.
Out of sight, out of mind, not my problem.
Like, why Rob is the one telling Trish about everything that happened. Like, she should have been able to just hear what was happening. She's right there. Yeah. It's a lake. Exactly. Sound travels. People died on the lake.
Yeah.
Anyway, I feel like if instead it was a character, you know, one character in their 20s maybe who was like living solo, that kind of had a lot of those elements pushed into one person, that would have been a much stronger character. You could maybe even include
Rob within that one character too and take him out of the film. And, you know, now then again, we do lose the greatest line of all time, but sacrifices need to be made. He's killing me. So of course we did mention him briefly, Tommy. who will be much more important, I would say, in the next movie. He... I hate the dress as a Jason thing, like, a lot.
Dress
the more
as a
I think
Jason
about it,
really bugged me. And I think part of it that bugged me is that it made Jason seem like the world's largest buffoon. Because up until that point, he's actually pretty intelligent. You know, I mean, he does things physically and brutally, but there's a level of smartness there. You know, with like hanging the bodies up on the door, like he's intentionally trying to scare people and lure them into a trap of some kind so he can kill them more easily. Yeah. And then in this movie, Tommy shaves his head and walks down the stairs, and then Jason looks at Tommy and goes, "Holy hell, is that me?" And then gets killed by Trish. How do you get so distracted by something that you like? He knows what he looks like.
Yeah.
That was 30 years ago. Like, why would he ever think that was him? Like, right in the moment. Like, oh, is there a mirror on that on that staircase suddenly? It makes so much more sense in the second movie, right? When Jenny is dressed up as the mom, because you're playing into this innate psychological element of Jason, this like psycho angle. And in this one, it's just silly. It's dumb, and it doesn't work, and it feels like they're trying to lean even harder into being a Halloween ripoff at times. And it's like, I didn't like that.
It's trying too hard when at the same time your franchise already did this scene, but better.
This whole movie is filled with those, though. A lot of the kills are homages. A lot of like the sequences that happen are homages. Like, this is a franchise at this time that was only around for 4 years, 4 movies in 4 years, and you
4 recaps. Well, 3.
And you already decided that, you know, not only is this gonna be the last one, but by it being the last one, you were just going to homage the other 3 movies for the whole movie. It's too much.
Yeah. I agree with you there. It definitely kind of just goes a bit farther. But Tommy does the one thing that I've wanted people to do when they're given the opportunity. When he sees Jason twitch, die! And he just keeps hitting him with the machete over and over and over again. And
that's true.
I gotta give him credit there to some degree, because it's like, well, he finally actually did the one thing characters should have done many other times when they had chances in this franchise to actually put the dude out.
This could have been a 2-movie franchise if Jenny just hacked him to pieces in the second movie.
Yeah. Or, shoot, I mean, really, if, what's the final girl in the first one? What's her name again?
Alice.
Alice knocks Mrs. Voorhees out inside the house.
Huh?
Like, she has an opportunity to take out this whole... She could have stopped this whole situation. What are we doing? Ugh.
It's true.
Speaking of moms...
Where'd Trish's mom go? Yeah.
Alright, it's time to talk. Is this movie essential to the franchise as a whole? Do you need to experience Friday the 13th, the final chapter, if you're talking about this entire franchise? Corbin, I want to pass it to you first.
So I have a controversial take on this one. I'm going to say no. I like part 4. You know, I like every Friday the 13th for the most part. But part 4 feels largely inconsequential. There's so many homages. Not a lot realistically happens. I think that if you're viewing this franchise as not just Friday the 13th, but Jason's story in some way, which is how I've largely been viewing it and corresponds to my comments in the first movie, you can easily go from part 3, when Jason gets his head caved in with that axe, and just skip forward a couple movies. And is that a spoiler for how I feel about part 5? Not necessarily. But I think you can go from 3 to 6 and not miss very much. So I'm going to say no. Unless you really want to see every entry, part 4 could be skipped.
Got it. It's of course it's on the agenda in a marathon setting, but if you're just choosing one to put on, it's not making your cut compared to other options.
Yeah, if this is the greatest hits, like let's watch 5 out of the 12, like I'm sorry, Part 4 is not in that list.
Got it. So I was more conflicted on this one than I've been on any of the other entries we've done so far. I eventually did lean on yes, and the big reason I chose that is this effectively ends kind of the human saga, because things definitely shift, hence A New Beginning as the title of the 5th movie, quite a bit from 5 through the rest of the series as we know it. But I think as a kind of closure here, to me, I looked at it as I think it should be viewed for that reason, as a just kind of wrap up of what we've experienced so far. So I would say yes.
Okay. Well, but with that in mind, we mentioned that we asked this a few weeks ago. We've watched 4 of these movies now. What's your personal tier list of the first 4 entries? Regardless of essentiality.
The gut check, per se.
That's right.
Of Friday the 13th.
At this moment, yeah.
So for me, Part 3 is definitely the number 1. Then I would say Part 2, then the original, and then 4 for me. Okay.
I love that, 4 movies in, you're still standing by the original.
I really enjoyed that original movie. I think what that movie showed me is I was ready for this type of watch of a franchise, more so than I think I even knew I was ready for. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I'm interested to see where the original ends up after we've watched all 12. Where do you put that one? For me, my list is very similar to yours. I would go 3 and then 2, but then I would say number 4, because number 4 does have some of those elements that I really like about Friday the 13th. It has more brutal kills than the original does. It has Jason. The original does not.
Fair.
And it has some very iconic moments, right? Crispin Glover's dance routine. Oh my God, he's killing me. Rob getting thrown through a window. Like, these are mostly silly moments, but in a lot of ways to me, Friday the 13th is a silly franchise. And so they stand out for me as being benefits. And then the original is on the bottom. Will it be at the bottom at the end of this? But it is right now.
For now, but not for long. Well, actually, I don't know. We haven't talked at all about Part 5, so it'll be interesting to see what you think about that.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of, next victim, it's going to be Part 5. Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning.
That's right.
It's going to be coming at you in about 2 weeks' time. In the meantime, come check us out in the Discord. Links in the description as always. Corbin, I want to thank you so much for being here tonight with me to talk about this movie.
Thanks for having me on. I love doing this one.
Yeah, it's a great show. It's a fun time. Take care, everyone. Thanks for listening.
He's killing me.